working with His Excellency, the President of the World Bank Group, Mr. Ajay Banga, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Mine this morning is a very simple task. I want to introduce the subject matter. And on behalf of the Republic of Kenya, let me first of all welcome you to this session. Kenya is very, very privileged to be the host for the International Development Association for Africa Heads of State Summit. We call it IDA Works. It's a theme that we have tried to develop depending on the issues that are at hand. First and foremost, let me begin by expressing our deepest appreciation for the cordial relationship that exists between the African continent and the World Bank. The World Bank, specifically IDA's mandate, is very relevant to the African continent as it supports the development activities that pave the way towards poverty eradication, raising the structure and quality of growth, job creation, higher incomes, and better living conditions. We do believe that there are so many other avenues and diverse development needs that Africa requires. We wish to assure the World Bank of our continued commitment to this partnership and cooperation, because working together, we are going to develop sustainable solutions. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we convene today with the aim of committing to IDA donors and even other partners for the critical priority areas for development financing in Africa. And in particular, we want to show how significant the higher funding requirements are going to be very, very important for the IDA 21 cycle in supporting Africa's development and even challenges that, challenges and opportunities that emerge for the Africa today. In IDA 21 replacement discussions held by ministers of finance yesterday, for which I was privileged to chair yesterday, the following themes were discussed and even summarized. First, it was investing in a livable planet in response to climate change. Second, we looked at the equal access to more and better jobs. Third, we looked at and discussed accelerating the recovery of human capital by fostering healthy, skilled, knowledgeable, and even inclusive societies. And fourth, we discussed how supporting African economies, and indeed what we require all IDA-supported developing economies, will be important to affect to those countries that are affected by fragility, conflict, and violence, because they do not achieve their potential. Fifth, we looked at prosperity and sustainable development requirements for the African continent. Sixth, we looked at digitization and connectivity, and so more so in terms of accessible services. And finally, we looked at universal access, energy access. The above issues are the ones that are summarized by the communique from the Ministers of Finance that was developed yesterday. We do believe that the summary of the communique will provide some efforts in terms of collective efforts, in terms of mutual dialogue, strong partnership, effective and even joint coordination for realization of Africa's economic and even development agenda. That actually was very, very heavily appealed by the team. These are the issues that will be summarized by the communique that will be shared in a closed session by the ministers. But more importantly, they reflect some of the needs that shows that IDA will work, and it will work with those commitments, and we therefore believe that it's going to work. Finally, these are just few remarks, but also I have the honor and the singular honor to invite the President of the World Bank, Mr. Ajay Banga, to address this gathering on the issues at hand, and more so on the IDA 21 replenishment. Thank you very much.
And as he's approaching, just to recognize also the presence of His Excellency Andre Rajoelina, President of the Republic of Madagascar.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. President Ruto, distinguished heads of state, your excellencies, guests, and all my colleagues, I think it's a great privilege for the World Bank to be here at this AIDA summit, so graciously hosted by the President of Kenya. But I want to start with recognizing that right now Kenya is suffering in one portion of its country some devastating floods, and I extend my deepest condolences to all those affected, and you know the World Bank will be there with you throughout this period, sir. This is the tragedy and the challenges of climate change. 4 years of drought followed by floods, and this is one of the reasons why, as the Cabinet Secretary spoke, the livable planet is such an important part of our future. These moments are devastating for families and for communities. They pull countries backward. They darken our hopes. But the horizon of Kenya, the horizon of the continent, I'm firmly convinced, remains very bright. We are here united by a shared vision for the future of Africa, a continent that is rich in diversity, in culture, in potential. It is very easy to feel hopeful when we are together anywhere in Africa. You feel the sun on your face, the wind at your back, the fertile and mineral-rich earth under your feet, and most importantly, you feel the infectious energy of young people. But these are the ingredients that can power the future. They are not new blessings, and over the course of history, this abundance has too often brought profiteering rather than prosperity. Today, we are focused on a brighter future for every country on the continent and the people who call it home. The International Development Association has been a steadfast partner in Africa's development journey. This summit symbolizes our objective commitment to accelerating progress. But we have to move with urgency, we have to move with purpose, and we have to have a focus on results and on impact. This will require more from AIDA, it will require more from all parts of the World Bank Group, it will require more from governments, and it will require more from the private sector. We stand at the cusp of a new era of growth and prosperity for Africa, or we have come together merely to admire its potential. The choice of where to go with that is ours. AIDA remains dedicated to supporting your efforts, to investing in the people of Africa. We are working to make AIDA more efficient. We are working to make it able to deliver faster by cutting burdensome rules, requirements, and redundancies. We believe a simpler and reimagined AIDA can be deployed with more focus to make meaningful impact to advance the fundamental needs, energy access, healthcare availability, realize the agricultural potential of this continent, and build out critical infrastructure and skills in its people. We see boundless opportunities to advance your development goals, but we're going to have to work for it, and that should guide our discussion as we go forward today. Let's harness our collective energy, point it towards making impacts that will resonate for generations to come. Once again, let me extend my deepest gratitude to President Ruto for hosting in this beautiful country, and to each of you for traveling to be with us today. I look forward to interacting with you as the day goes along. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. And before I move on to the next part, just to recognize also the presence of His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana. We also have the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, His Excellency Abiy Ahmed, who's joined us as well, and Prime Minister Cote d'Ivoire, His Excellency Robert Bagre Mambe. At this point in time, Your Excellencies, allow me to now invite my co-MC, the wonderful and gorgeous Yvonne Dege, who will guide us. Why don't we put a warm welcome as we welcome her to guide us for the next part. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, Michael. Welcome again to the AIDA for Africa Heads of State Summit, hosted here in the beautiful city of Nairobi, Kenya. As Michael said, I'm Yvonne Dege, and I'm looking forward to guiding you all through a very exciting session by the heads of state. We are very happy to welcome you at this event, which is dedicated to IDA, the International Development Association, which is a partnership between donor and recipient nations. IDA is the World Bank Group's fund that works with countries to achieve sustainable growth so that they can chart their own future. A special welcome to our audience joining us globally via World Bank Live, across Africa via CNBC, and locally through Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, KBC. We also have simultaneous interpretation in Swahili, French, Arabic and Portuguese. Channel information can be found on signs in the room or at the bottom of your screen on World Bank Live. Wherever you are, please join the conversation online using the hashtag IDAWorks. At this moment, it gives me great pleasure and an honor to invite His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, William Samoei Ruto, to the podium. You're welcome, Your Excellency, for opening remarks.
Your Excellency, President Mohamed Ghazani, Chairman of the Africa Union Assembly, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency, my friend, Ajay Banga, the President of the World Bank Group, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Kenya. On behalf of the people and the government of Kenya, I welcome you all to Nairobi for the IDA for Heads of State Summit. It is an honor for Kenya to host this IDA replenishment conference at this historic venue, the place where African heads of state recently united with a bold vision. Here, we committed to transforming our continent into a thriving middle-income region, leveraging our unique potential to drive global solutions. Today, we build on that legacy by actualizing our potential to provide those solutions through necessary financing. I extend my deepest gratitude to each of you for joining us at this pivotal summit. Your presence not only honors us, but also reaffirms our shared commitment to the International Development Association, our cornerstone for achieving the development goals of our continent and beyond our continent. We convene at a critical juncture, facing a convergence of global crises. This includes escalating geopolitical tensions that challenge international unity, a deepening development and debt crisis that threatens our economic stability, and urgent climate emergencies that demand immediate and collective action for our planet's survival. Today, we gather here, Kenya and the broader East Africa region faces severe flooding that devastated communities, destroyed infrastructure, and disrupted our economies. Concurrently, Southern Africa confronts intensifying drought, affecting nations like Malawi, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Just last year, the roles were reversed, highlighting our shared vulnerability to extreme weather patterns. As I speak to you in this podium, 10,000 people in Nairobi City are displaced by floods. That is the gravity of the situation. Only a year ago, we had a devastating drought on the other end. This new normal demands our immediate and united action to safeguard our collective future. This underscores the critical role of IDA for Africa Summit As a cornerstone of financing for Africa, AIDA has directed 75% of its total commitments, nearly $26 billion, to our continent in the last fiscal year, with African nations comprising 8 of AIDA's top 10 borrowers. This support is not just financial. It is a lifeline for our development and also our stability. And your presence, personal presence, my friend Ajay Banga, in this meeting is a demonstration of the centrality of the discussions that will happen in this meeting and your personal commitment to this continent, which we appreciate. AIDA stands out for its rapid and decisive action during crisis, distinguishing itself from other funding sources. Its demand-driven programs, combined with concessional loans of 40 to 50 years, empower borrowing nations to pursue sustainable long-term development strategies. And this is what we have been asking for: long-term, concessionary. We now want to discuss in this meeting scale. That is the only aspect that is missing in this configuration. And as Ajay Banka said, 2 things are missing: scale and design. Make it simpler. Now, more than ever, long-term concessional financing is vital. As many Africans and other developing nations face severe debt crisis, this financial strain hampers our efforts to combat climate change, transition to low-carbon economy, and adequately fund essential sectors like education, health, and social protection. We have frequently discussed the financial challenges that restrict our economic capabilities and reduce our investment in resilience and growth. High interest rates lead to unsustainable sovereign debt, complicate refinancing, and destabilize our currencies. Additionally, the rising cost of living, increased commodity prices, and supply chain disruptions severely impacting our food security, healthcare systems, and overall preparedness for response to crisis. Last year, we brought to global attention that African nations pay interest rates up to 5 times higher than typical World Bank IBRD rates. This year, the situation has worsened. Developing countries are now net contributors to the global economy, contrary to expectations of receiving net inflows. Projections, for example, for 2024 show a net outflow of $74 billion from AIDA countries like Kenya and others to donor nations, while net financial transfers to developing countries have plummeted from $225 billion in 2024 to now a low of $51 billion in 2022. Those statistics are glaring by any measure. Given these conditions, sustainable growth remains elusive for African nations as we allocate more funds to debt service than to crucial sectors like education, health, and social protection. This financial strain was prevalent in 2/3 of African countries even before the pandemic struck. Notably, in 2020, 1 in every 4 sub-Saharan African countries dedicated over 17% of its public revenues solely to interest payments. The IMF reports that sub-Saharan Africa's ratio of interest payments to revenue has more than doubled in a decade, reaching nearly 4 times that of advanced economies by the end of 2022. As a result, over half of AIDA recipients today face debt distress or are at a high risk of debt distress. AIDA remains their most dependable source of patient capital, with every dollar of donor financing enabling an additional US dollars 3.5 in capital market leverage to amplify development impact. This endeavor transcends financial returns. It is about fulfilling our collective global aspirations. Africa's commitment to economic transformation, reducing poverty and inequality, and enhancing human well-being is essential and demands significant capital investment. Moreover, the global goal of achieving net zero by 2050 cannot be realized without Africa's active participation, a failure which would jeopardize humanity's survival. Not just African survival, humanity's survival. It is imperative to understand with substantial investment in our vast energy resources, Africa can not only provide power to all its citizens, including the 600 million currently without access, but also significantly advance global decarbonization efforts. Let me say this broadly. If there was a case to be made for a win-win outcome, AIDA is the best example, because everybody wins. The donors win, the recipients win. The donors win because it is an investment for them. For the recipients, it is an opportunity. In both cases, we have winners. The donors will put money in renewable energy, in energy in general, and we can continue world manufacturing and industrialization using African mineral resources, using energy that we have in abundance, and using labor that we have in abundance, and we can share the outcome of that industrialization with the rest of the world. By investing in AIDA, we unlock 60% of the world's arable and cultivated land for food security and nutrition, not just for Africa, but for the globe. By investing in AIDA, we unlock the human resource potential in our continent, Africa being the youngest continent in the world. Investing in education, in health, in social protection gives us the opportunity to provide 40% of the world's workforce by 2050. Investing in AIDA gives us the opportunity to decarbonize global economy and provide for green growth. Let me say this. Our continent possesses 60% of the world's prime solar resources, and our untapped renewable energy potential exceeds 50 times the projected global electricity demand by 2040. However, realizing this requires a shift in investment strategies with affordable long-term capital at scale being central. Our proposal and request entail a vision for an Africa-driven socio-economic development executed with transparency and inclusiveness, and our case is straightforward. Let me put it this way. Significant capital injection into AIDA is crucial. The G20 independent expert group recommends tripling AIDA's financing capacity to US dollars 279 billion by 2030, while maintaining the essential concessional nature of its financing. At the very least, and if we cannot do anything else, let us not ignore or wish away this expert advice. We seek not just funding, but a partnership for progress. African nations propose a robust plan for climate-positive growth, aligning with the Nairobi Declaration from last year's Africa Climate Summit to ensure stable, dignified, and sustainable livelihoods across our continent. Africa is poised to transform its agriculture, water security, and energy access while creating job opportunities for over 4 million youths entering the job market monthly and expanding our small and medium enterprises as well. Central to these opportunities is our commitment to African-led initiatives. We aim to control our destiny, managing our resources responsibly and sustainably to drive Africa's industrialization agenda using our abundant energy, mineral, and human capital resources. Our commitment to transparency and accountability is in our socio-economic development plans, ensuring the efficient and effective use of IDA is central to our plan. We acknowledge the vital role of diverse stakeholders beyond governments and traditional donors committing to deeper and broader engagement to enrich our development outcomes. We are committed to empower the Africa Union Commission to make it fit for purpose with capacity to engage the rest of the world on behalf of Africa. We are committed to reform the Pan-African Parliament to enhance oversight and accountability over the Commission and establish an African Court of Justice so that we are ready to engage with the rest of the world. Faced with the relentless challenge of climate change and escalating instability, safeguarding the future of our civilization, the human race, and the diverse life forms that share our planet. Africa is eager to contribute to the solution. Our continent offers a viable and promising pathway to a future of prosperity for all humanity, harnessing our rich resources and innovative spirit. IDA's efficiency and effectiveness make it a unique force for good. Africa recognizes this, and we don't take it for granted. We are setting an example with our ambitious plan for structural and systemic reforms underpinned by steadfast commitment to tangible results, transparency, and a robust partnership. Given the enormity of the challenge faced by African countries and its global implications as collective emergency, we call on our partners to meet us at this historic moment of solidarity and respond effectively by increasing their IDA contribution from the $93 billion raised in 2021 to at least $120 billion in 2024. As we make this call, we as African heads of state and government commit to play our part by taking deliberate and robust actions to improve fiscal discipline, increase domestic revenue mobilization, develop investor-friendly policies, and enhance anti-corruption measures. IDA exemplifies the best of global cooperation, characterized by compassion, lasting dedication, and a fruitful collaboration. By fortifying IDA, we do more than just honor these values. We significantly enhance our joint ability to tackle global challenges. Let us value and expand the reach and influence of this vital resource. Together, let us be bold, let us be ambitious, and let us act with conviction. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the President of Kenya, for that important keynote address. Thank you very much, Mr. President. This IDA for Africa Heads of State Summit is a critical platform for all heads of state and other leaders from across the continent, together to highlight IDA's impact and to call for a robust 21st replenishment resources in support of transformational development. An ambitious IDA 21 will be a lifeline for a world in crisis, and in particular, here in Africa. And to speak about it, I am now extremely honored to welcome the heads of states to deliver their statements. I would like to call upon His Excellency Mohamed Ghazouani, African Union Chair, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. You're welcome, Mr. President.
Excellence, Dr William Samoei Ruto, président de la République du Kenya, Excellence, Madame et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Monsieur Adje Banga, président du groupe de la Banque mondiale, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants des donateurs de l'IDA et des institutions financières, Mesdames et Messieurs, je voudrais tout d'abord signifier à mon frère et ami, son Excellence Dr William Ruto, président de la République du Kenya, qu'autant je le remercie, et à travers lui le gouvernement et le peuple kenyan frère, pour l'accueil chaleureux et l'hospitalité généreuse, autant je le félicite vivement pour la parfaite organisation de ce sommet IDA-Afrique qui constitue une étape cruciale dans le processus de la 21e reconstitution des ressources de l'IDA. Je tiens également à exprimer mes sincères remerciements au président de la Banque mondiale, M. Adje Banga, pour son leadership et son engagement en faveur de l'Afrique. Tout comme je remercie vivement, à mon nom propre et au nom de l'Union africaine, l'ensemble des donateurs et parties prenantes de l'Association internationale de développement pour la générosité et la constance de leur appui. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, cette 21e reconstitution des ressources de l'IDA se tient dans un contexte continental et international particulièrement difficile et fortement marqué par des crises multiformes. Pandémie de la Covid, exacerbation continue des chocs climatiques, crise sécuritaire et politique, terrorisme et conflits armés en Afrique, en Ukraine, au Moyen-Orient et un peu partout ailleurs. Ces crises et conflits, au-delà des tragédies humaines qu'ils drainent dans leur sillage, impactent négativement et profondément l'économie dans le monde et particulièrement en Afrique, par leurs effets induits en termes de perturbation des chaînes d'approvisionnement, d'exacerbation de l'insécurité énergétique et alimentaire. Elles ont ainsi des conséquences massives sur les conditions de vie de centaines de millions de foyers dans les pays à faible revenu, en Afrique et dans le monde, et qui sont les principaux clients de l'IDA. Aussi, l'éradication de la pauvreté et de la faim à l'horizon 2030, qui semblait possible au moment du lancement de l'agenda du développement durable, sont désormais hors de portée pour la plupart des pays africains. De même, l'accès universel à l'eau potable, à l'assainissement et à l'électricité sont également un challenge difficile à relever. Les besoins de financement additionnels pour les infrastructures de développement ont ainsi été estimés par la Banque africaine de développement entre 68 et 100 milliards de dollars par an, tandis que les besoins de financement additionnels nécessaires pour que l'Afrique atteigne des objectifs de développement durable ont été estimés à 190 milliards de dollars par an. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, ce bref tableau de besoins de financement montre, si besoin est, l'impérieuse nécessité d'une 21e reconstitution ambitieuse et solide des ressources de l'IDA, au moment où plusieurs de nos États font face à des obligations et des contraintes multiples, service de la dette, choc climatique, conflits et afflux de réfugiés. Cependant, à elles seules, les ressources de l'IDA ne suffisent point. Pour financer notre développement, nous aurons besoin de ressources massives et de ressources massives de financement privé et de financement direct étranger. Nous aurons besoin de réduire les coûts de financement du capital à travers un mix approprié de ressources concessionnelles et de financement au coût du marché. C'est pourquoi je voudrais ici exprimer mon très fort soutien à la réforme engagée par le président Adjei Banga en vue de bâtir une banque mondiale plus grande, plus forte et plus efficace, une banque mondiale dans laquelle les différentes branches publiques et privées opèrent en synergie. Je tiens également à saluer ces efforts visant à réduire les délais de préparation des projets et à simplifier les procédures d'approbation et de mise en œuvre. Je me félicite enfin de sa collaboration renforcée avec le président de la Banque africaine de développement, mon frère le président Adesina, notamment dans le domaine crucial de l'accès à l'énergie. Et je formule le vœu que cette opération s'étende à d'autres secteurs et inclut d'autres banques multilatérales de développement. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, l'IDA joue un rôle unique dans le financement du développement en Afrique où elle intervient au niveau de 39 pays. 1,5 milliard de pauvres, dont un nombre important de nos citoyens, de nos concitoyens africains, ont bénéficié des financements de l'IDA. Ce rôle doit se renforcer alors que nous faisons face aux défis majeurs des changements climatiques. C'est pourquoi je réitère, au nom de l'Union africaine et à mon nom propre, mes remerciements aux pays donateurs de l'IDA pour leur générosité et appelle à une reconstitution ambitieuse et solide des ressources de l'IDA à la hauteur des challenges de notre époque. Le coût de l'inaction serait exorbitant en termes de fragilité et de précarité, de perte de vies humaines, d'années d'enseignement et d'opportunités de développement, de gaspillage de notre ressource et de détérioration environnementale.
Environmental deterioration. We could avoid such a scenario by making sure that Africa is still on the path of inclusive and sustainable growth. For this, we have a need of human resources and also resources in natural capital, and it is to help us to transform our enormous potential and social to be able to reach sustainable.
Your Excellency, I would now like to take this opportunity to invite to the stage the Prime Minister of the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire, Robert Bourg-Mambe. Bienvenue.
Excellence Dr. William Ruto, Président de la République du Kenya, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs,
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and of government,
Mr. Adjei Banga,
Mr. Adjei Banga, President of the World Bank Group,
Mesdames et Messieurs, les
ladies
donateurs,
and gentlemen,
les bailleurs de fonds.
funders, Before I begin, I'd like to share with you the warm greetings of His Excellencies, Monsieur Alassane Ouattara, the President of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, who, due to other reasons, asked me to represent him at this very important summit on the reconstitution of the AIDA Resources 21. I also take this opportunity to address my sincere thanks to Excellency Dr. William Ruto, the President of the Republic, and also to the people of Kenya for the hospitality and the quality of the welcome. I would also like to reinforce the thanks to thank the President of the World Bank, Mr. Ajay Banga, for his determination to reform our common institution for better in efficiency in interventions and also accelerate sustainable development in our states. It is this important summit also strategizes to mobilize resources either for the 3 coming years. So the governments of the low-income countries need today to also, they are faced by major obstacles that are becoming bigger and bigger in an environment where the resources are limited. When it comes to the Ivory Coast, modernization of agriculture and the production sectors, development of the private sector, and also employment for the youth are the main obstacles. With the security problems in the Sahel, the Ivory Coast has a growing number of refugees, and also who are more than in their millions today, who are also pressure on social services and also need a lot of government interventions. So we are calling upon IDA and my country needs a lot of support from the World Bank to be able to be more resilient. That is why the Ivory Coast, which also came up to advocate for more resources from IDA, is also involved in following up on these efforts in reconstituting the AIDA 21. So it is with pleasure that my country, from the 9th to 10th October of this year, the African Economic Summit, which will seek to mobilize main finances and partnerships with Global Citizen and Bridgewater Associates to support the campaign to also reconstitute AIDA 21. And I'd like to also send an appeal to our funders and also to the World Group and its partners that they mobilize resources, AIDA resources, to help governments to face the problems that are becoming more and more bigger and more complex. Ivory Coast supports all the efforts of World Bank and its partners. I thank you all for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, Votre Excellence. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for those words. I would now like to call on His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, to give some remarks. You're welcome, Your Excellency.
His Excellency William Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya, the Chairperson of the African Union, President of Mauritania, and their Excellencies, the heads of state and government, This is a topic I can speak on for the whole day. I'm therefore glad we have had this meeting where the presidents of Africa meet with some of the Western leaders. The crisis which is in Africa today is because of philosophical, ideological, strategic, economic mistakes, which we have been talking about since the 1960s. This is not an accident. When you see the crisis in many of the African countries, the collapse of states, we predicted this in the 1960s. Philosophical, ideological, strategic mistakes. I don't have time to amplify each one. But I was very happy to hear the president of the World Bank talking about prosperity instead of profiteering. These were his own words. That's what I picked. This has been the problem. Aid has been for profiteering. This has been the problem. Now, the World Bank people and other groups have been talking of sustainable development. Even in your documents, I have seen those words there. Sustainable development. I am now going to be 80 years old. I have never seen sustainable pregnancy. That a woman is pregnant this year, the pregnancy continues next year, 3 years, 4 years, it never happens. In life, pregnancy develops sustainably within the womb of the woman. Quantitatively, the baby is growing bigger and bigger. But at some stage, quantitative growth must be transformed into qualitative change. The pregnancy must become a baby. If the pregnancy remains pregnancy, the fetus will die. So therefore, I would even ask you to change those words in your documents. Africa does not need sustainable what? You could call it sustainable underdevelopment. Africa needs socio-economic transformation. The pregnancy must become a baby. The baby must grow and become a teenager. The teenager must grow. That's what happens in life. You cannot have quantitative growth and you think you are doing anything. The main reason why there is no growth is because the growth factors are not funded. They are not even understood. What are the growth factors? We now talk of private sector-led growth. Yes, but for the private sector to grow, what does it need? It needs low costs of production. Ministers of Finance, low costs of production. And what are the low costs of production? Number one, transport. You must have low transport costs. Where do low transport costs come from? From the railway. If you don't fund the railway, how will you get low transport costs? Wonderful people, Banco Mundial, IMF, all of these. Where will low cost of production come from if you don't have a railway? I have been here for the last 64 years. I've been watching as a student leader, as a freedom fighter, now as the leader of a country. How many railways have been constructed or funded in Africa? The few that have been was by China, the Tanzania Railway to Zambia, and recently China, another one here in Kenya, and then Tanzania on their own, they are building a railway line. So, if you are talking of helping Africa, the railway, I don't want to be involved in any other words, no, please. The railway. Because if you fund the railway, you will have low cost of transport, and you can produce products which are cheap, which can be bought in the world. So you audit how much funding, all these billions you are talking about, how much of it has gone to the railway. Audit it. The second cost pusher is electricity. If you don't find electricity and you talk about sustainable development, what are you talking about? Private sector-led growth. Maneno tu. Electricity, we must have low-cost electricity, not exceeding 5 cents per kilowatt hour. That's what I insist on in Uganda. I'm tired of all these stories. These neo-colonial civil servants who have been holding us back, I have put my foot down, say I don't want to hear those stories. And Uganda is developing, and it will develop, because I don't entertain that nonsense anymore. Borrowing for what? Capacity building. Imagine. Seminars. They call you in a hotel, you eat chapati, you eat mandazi. They say that is capacity building. Capacity building should be on the ground, not just seminars. So, the second point, Excellencies, electricity. The third one, those people who talk about private sector-led growth, I have been trying to borrow money for our UDB, Uganda Development Bank, a bank which funds manufacturers. No, I don't get support for that. Instead, they want me to go, my people to go to commercial banks. But commercial banks cannot give, no, those commercial banks are to encourage imports. Because the only person who can borrow money and pay it back from a commercial bank is a trader who goes to China, goes to where, Dubai, brings products, sells them quickly, and pays back. So, if you are serious, I need to hear about the low-cost funding for manufacturing. Not for stories, not for what, no, manufacturing. How about funding for irrigation? Because if you want to stabilize agriculture, a country like Uganda is very rich. We have got everything. But still, sometimes we get some erraticness in the rain. So in order to stabilize, I've been trying to look for a loan for irrigation. I can't easily get it. Very difficult to get. A loan for seminars, very quick. The civil servants, what? But a loan for irrigation, you don't see. Now, finally, the loan for, I don't know the situation in other African countries, and I don't have time to talk for a long, I don't have opportunity to talk for long. But Uganda is a very rich country. But one of the problems we were having was that our people were outside the money economy. They were in what they call subsistence sector. They just produce for eating, produce for eating, produce for eating. Wanashughulikia tumbo tu. So I was looking for money. Please give me money to give coffee seedlings to these fellows who are just producing for the stomach, so that they can produce for the stomach, but also produce for the pocket, so that they join the money economy. You cannot imagine that by 2013, a few years ago, 68% of the homesteads in Uganda were still in the subsistence sector, in the non-money economy. You audit your countries. What is the situation? What is the percentage of the people? So I had now to use my own money, because I couldn't borrow money from anybody. The loans are for capacity building, for, I don't know, sometimes they give for ICT, but ICT is a communication system, mainly. What are you going to communicate on that communication? How are you? Good morning. And you think that is communication. Why don't you have ICT linked with agriculture, linked with industry? Oh, now the digital. Are you eating computers? Have I seen anybody eating computers? Just running up and down, maneno tu. So I was insisting that all these Ugandans must be in the money economy. 2013, not long ago, 68% of Ugandans were outside the money economy, because Uganda is a very rich country. A fool can survive there. In other countries, fools die. But in Uganda, fools can thrive there. They just eat. He stays with his brothers. He eats. He goes from there to the sister. He eats. He's not earning anything, but he's eating. So we said, no, everybody must be involved in the money economy. We couldn't get any support for that. But we funded it ourselves. Each year, we spend about $300 million of our own to make these villagers join the money economy by producing for the stomach, but also for the pocket. And from 2013, I was now told that for the first time, 61% of the people are in the money economy, of the homesteads. It is only 39% that are still out. You imagine, those are still there, just eating, no money. So therefore, this meeting is, then you get your neo-colonial civil servants they talk of import support. Imagine there is money for import support. Import support, import support. The governor writes to me, reports, we have got import cover for so many months. But I don't want to import, I want to export. Why don't you tell me about import substitution and export promotion? Instead you are telling me of import support. So money is available for to become more dependent. So I'm very glad to hear what now finally the cash which we told our people about in the 1960s, we told them part of the wars we fought in Uganda, we had to get rid of the neo-colonial groups which were there, which were stopping us from thinking. We had to get rid of them by force. But one of the problems was Africa producing raw materials, matière primaire, they call it in français, matière primaire. Raw materials. Imagine coffee. The global value of coffee is $460 billion. All the coffee producing countries of the world, Brazil, us, all this, we only get 25 billion of that. Out of the 460 billion, the coffee producing countries get 25 billion. And Africa gets only 2.5 billion. 900 million of that comes to Uganda because Uganda produces a lot of coffee. A country like Germany, which has no coffee, earns $65 billion from coffee. So, this I sell a kilo of coffee, good grade coffee, $2.5. Somebody in London will get $241 from that 1 kilo. Okay, there are other costs on the way. I don't want to, because he's the owner of a restaurant and so on. But coffee roasting, coffee grinding, coffee packing must happen here in Africa. It must happen at source. The shirt I'm putting on is Ugandan cotton. I don't put on foreign clothes. It's only the trousers I'm putting on because I can't go naked. Because they have not solved that problem for me. So, if you look at cotton, how many job levels are there? Job levels. You grow the cotton. Okay, that one we do. Those jobs we do. We gene the cotton. Kutoa mbegu, remove the seeds. That one we do here. And we end there. When you hear all these countries which have got crisis, Burkina Faso, I don't know what, Mali, all of them are cotton. But how much textiles are they producing? They are importing textiles, I don't know from where. So now if you end at level 2, gening, removing the seeds, then you take the pamba, you take the cotton, to cleverer people who are clever. Watu wenye akili wako huko. Sisi hapo tutajiita vipi? Kama mtu anakuzidi akili wewe unasema wewe nani? So they take the cotton, they spinning more money, more jobs for their children. They weave. More money, more jobs for their children. They put the print. More money, more jobs for their children. I looked at the figures. Uganda consumes 276 million meters of textiles each year. And that wonderful country of yours spends $880 million on clothes. Some of them dead people's clothes from Europe. When people die, their clothes, they are sent to you people, to Africa. And we spend 800, all the money we earn from coffee goes back to bring dead people's clothes. But we have got one factory there called NCHI. It produces 25 million meters. So in order to clothe our people in Uganda without importing, we need about 11 factories like the one of NCHI. And they would employ about 20,000 people. So there, and we would save $880 million, which we are just giving to other people. So this Ida, what did you say about the modern slavery of the Africans, of producing raw materials? In one of our documents in Addis Ababa, we had talked of Africa producing what it does not consume and consuming what it does not produce. They had put that as a summary in one of the documents of the African Union. We must get rid of the production of raw. I banned the export of minerals from Uganda and process. I banned them. Piga marufuku. Then the agents were going in the corridors, what Mufanyi, no mineral will come from Uganda if it's not processed. You wait until I go away, you can steal the minerals, but not now. I banned this export of unprocessed minerals in 2012. My young brother, His Excellency Ruto, I forgave him and gave him some little iron ore for, I think, 2 or 3 years, because I've got a lot of iron ore, one of the best in the world. I told him, His Excellency Ruto's man, Muindi wa hapa Kenya, you come and build the steel factory in Uganda at the iron ore. Oh, I've already built in Mombasa. So I said, okay, because of my young friend, I give you some iron ore for 2 or 3 years. But come and put the factory here. Now you can imagine akili ya watu wenu, my civil servants. An Indian wanted to take that iron ore to India, imagine. Iron ore in Runyankore, in our language, is called obtare, but it is soil, black soil. If you see it, it is soil. To take that to India and do what? Pay your wonderful people $47 per ton. Our iron ore is the purest in the world. It is 70% pure. So you need like 1.5 tons to make a ton of steel. Now, a ton of steel costs $700. Somebody gives you $47 on your wealth, the wealth of your people, and he gets $700 from it. And all the jobs. Your children have no jobs. Watoto wa Wahindi wanafanya wamepata kazi. I can't be part of that treachery. So I banned, there will be no export of unprocessed minerals from Uganda. So there's no business. What do you mean there's no business? So when I banned them, they are flocking in now. They have opened 7 gold refineries. 7 gold refineries. They are there. Because I banned. The other day I was opening a tin refinery. You can imagine this tin, and Samia may know where we were, the power station, both sides, the Uganda side and the Tanzanian side. That is all tin. But all this time, imagine, since the British were here, they were taking, walikuwa wanachukua mawe tu, stones, because tin in nature is a stone, looks like a stone. So they take that. And they give my people $11 per kilo. And they take it to cleverer people. For the cleverer people, they get $32. My people got 11, those people get $32. And all the jobs. So when I was opening the factory, I was asking the refinery, I was asking them, this boy who opened the factory is a Canadian. I was asking them, huyu Mkanada ameleta umeme wake. Has this Canadian brought his own electricity? No. Anatumia umeme wa kwetu. Ameleta maji yake ya factory? No. Anatumia maji yetu. Internet anatumia ya nani? Ya kwetu. So, out of the $32, much of that money will remain in Uganda. Pay for the raw material, pay for the electricity, pay for the water, all that remains in Uganda. So, what does, first of all, my African brothers and sisters say about this hemorrhage of Africa? Hemorrhage. Echikurukuto, we call it in Uganda. This hemorrhage must stop. The crisis you see in these countries is because of stagnation of the last 60 years since independence. The population is increasing, the economies are not increasing. What do you expect? So with these few words, Your Excellencies, what do I say? Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, President Yoweri Museveni. May I call upon His Excellency, Professor Faustin Archange Touadéra, President of the Central African Republic, to please come and give some remarks. Bienvenue.
Excellence, Dr William Samuel Ruto, président de la République du Kenya, très chers frères, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Monsieur le Président du groupe de la Banque mondiale, distinguées personnalités, Mesdames et Messieurs, permettez-moi, à l'entame de mes propos, d'adresser à notre frère, Son Excellence Dr William Samuel Ruto,
President of the Republic of Kenya and the Kenyan people, I'd like to express my deepest feelings and express Central African Republic following the floods that have led to the tragic disappearance of many people and also a lot of destruction in our sister country. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I take to the stage now representing my country, the Central African Republic. This occasion of this summit or Heads of State Summit, Summit of the Heads of State and Government in the ambitious reconstruction of resources of the AIDA 21 for Africa. Allow me to also express our deep gratitude towards my brother, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and the Kenyan people for the organization, the successful organization of this summit, and also the welcome, the brotherly welcome, very warm, which have known since our arrival in this really dynamic town of Nairobi. I'd also like to thank Ajay Banga, the president of the World Bank Group, for his full participation in this very important summit, for his leadership, and also on reconstitution of resources, AIDA 21. It is also the moment to express my gratitude to the World Bank for the multifaceted approach that we have been given. I'd also like to thank the entire group of funders in IDA, because it is thanks to their contribution this institution has the necessary is to help the most poor countries on this planet to be able to move to some place. So also the African Union, that it is in Africa that we also find a number of natural resources and strategic minerals, and we find that some of these countries are some of the most impoverished of these countries. And the Central African Republic has had a feeling of this level of poverty that we are talking about in this AIDA 21. So we talk about 0.8 percentage growth, which means that a child who was born before the pandemic will only realize 28% of his potential if he has received any education and other equity. In 2021, about a larger percentage had achieved basic sanitation, but we also had 80% who had no access to electricity or internet. 2017, according to the United Nations. So in April of 2024, so 40% of Central Africans would not eat a food. So we are told that there are millions of people, that is about 46% of the population, are living in extreme vulnerability in this 2024, and which needs urgent humanitarian action. Now, in such a very difficult national context, exacerbated by the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic and also tensions at international level, the contributions of the World Group to fight against poverty and also the promotion of socio-economic development are essential, if not vital. In fact, IDA 21 had already borrowed $370 million, already showing its importance in our quest for reducing poverty. So this kind of for the construction of a solar near the capital in Bangui to supply electricity to 60,000 inhabitants. So we appreciate support communities that are displaced, also reaching out to vulnerable households. And when you're talking about $40,000 for each person, allows us to come up, support them to come up with income-generating activities and continue with education. The project, the support project, and the health sector allowed us to open clinics that are open to millions or 1 million people, with about 362,000 prenatal visits, and where people can also receive psychosocial support, especially where there has been gender-based violence in the districts. That also reached 292,000. Now, these figures are 142 million American dollars that have been put in projects, amongst which 16 national projects and at regional level. So cumulatively, we are talking about a reach of 48%. We'd like to reiterate our wish that these projects that are still in the pipeline be fast-tracked to also help us reach a wider group of the population. Like it was noted, IDA financing has contributed to improve on the livelihoods in the towns and also to mitigate the effects of conflicts and underdevelopment. So we are talking of strengthening of actions and also projects, and also as we look at more of the sustainable projects. So when we are talking about 2024, 2028, we are capitalizing on the plan to consolidate 2017-2023 program that had been improved on in the Central African Republic, and also the route map that Rwanda provided. We have looked at it with the improvement in the security situation. The new program allows us to move from humanitarian actions to development and also accelerate the economic growth, reduce poverty, and also improve on the well-being of our population, which is young. Our vision, as we look at 2028, is to construct, we have a prosperous Central African Republic which has quality human capital that is resilient and also sustainable, and where to have projects that are sustained, that inclusive, and are open to governance. So IDA 21 to us looks like an historic opportunity for our growth and our development. In order to make use of the potential opportunities that could open up and also the implementation of the PND, our priorities consist of investing in human capacity and also put up roads, digitalization, and also intelligence, and also other projects that also take into account climate changes and also reduce the
et la révolution énergétique. Ceci en retour peut contribuer à relever un grand nombre de défis auxquels mon pays est confronté. Pour y parvenir, la République centrafricaine aura besoin de ressources concessionnelles, d'où notre appel aux pays donateurs pour une reconstruction massive de IDA 21, à l'exemple de IDA 19 et IDA 20, dans un contexte de raréfaction des ressources financières à l'international et des lenteurs observées dans l'exécution des compensations de la finance climat en faveur des pays particulièrement vulnérables. Je saisis donc cette occasion pour saluer la simplification des procédures de l'IDA, qui vise à rendre les options de financement plus simples, plus accessibles et plus rapides, afin d'avoir un meilleur impact à plus grande échelle et à plus grande vitesse.
at a greater speed. I'd like to end and reminding us that AIDA is a partnership between donor pays and the recipient countries, and help the receiving states to be able to have sustainable growth as they look at having a more prosperous future. It is the wish that I would have for my country and for other countries that are also benefiting from AIDA who are represented here. So we are looking at our level of indebtedness and the conditions of the capital markets. AIDA Bank 1 remains the credible factor that we have when we look at concessionary rates for a country like mine, which has just come out of a fragile state, and also to help us add value to our human capital. I'd like to ask all the traditional funders and also the potential new funders to also make themselves useful, and you contribute massively to the 21st reconstitution of resources of the International Development Association, AIDA 21, to have a more equitable and just country. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Votre Excellence. I would now like to welcome His Excellency Mr. Azali Assoumani, President of the Union of the Comoros, to the stage. You're welcome, Your Excellency.
Excellence, Monsieur le Président Ruto, que j'appelle Ahmad Abako, un cher frère.
Ahmad Abako, a dear brother. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of government and state, Your Excellency, Monsieur Ahmad Ghazouani, the President of the Conference of the African and the President. Your Excellency Ajay Bango, the President of the World Bank Group, ladies and gentlemen, the heads of international institutions, distinguished guests, ladies and ladies, greetings to all. I'd like to first of all express on behalf of my delegation and on my own my gratitude to our brother, the President Ruto, for the perfect organization of this summit, and also to our brothers and sisters in Kenya for their warm hospitality and in this beautiful town of Nairobi. As we meet for this crucial summit in order to deliberate on the question of reconstituting the resources under AIDA 21, I'd like to first of all to underline that Africa finds itself today in a crisis, unprecedented crisis. So when we are looking, there are a number of obstacles. There are economic disparities, environmental degradation, security and health crises, and inequalities in education. However, in the midst of all these problems comes an opportunity that is exceptional for collective action and also for transformative change. Our continent is, in effect, has a lot of potential resources to help us. So when we talk about very important human resource, so to be able to play its role in the world economy, Africa needs big investment in a number of development areas. Ladies and gentlemen who are here, so AIDA has to be an ally that in our part we're heading toward sustainable development. It is unique in the world where a dollar from the developing countries is also supported by $4 for the financing of development projects. As we engage, this is the trajectory of the IDA 21, it is important, it is imperative. We also recognize the indispensable role that this institution has played in the promotion of inclusive growth and also prosperity in Africa. As such, the $23 billion of reconstitution in IDA 2020 allowed the institution to mobilize $93 billion for financement for the member countries, of which 20% have been engagements that are destined to reach African countries. So we can agree with me that is in a very difficult context of access to financial markets. The IDA instrument needs to be honored, thanked, and also strengthened by our contribution that is very important as partners. Also, we also express our deepest gratitude to all our partners, first of whom is the World Bank. So thanking it for its robust and continued engagement and support that is appropriate to help us do away with the obstacles to development that our countries face. So this robust reconstitution of IDA comes from the simple need that is financial and also incarnates a moral imperative and also underlies to ensure that no one is left behind in our quest to be more ready for the African countries. As such, and IDA 21, that's ambitious, should give priority to efforts to invest in development areas such as agriculture, energy, infrastructure, and the climatic adaptation before supporting creation of work, of quality workforce of young people and underprivileged groups. So this would be from IDA 18, we have been able to get substantial concessionary funds going to the private sector that to help people get out of poverty by creating sustainable employment, economic transformation, and mobilizing resources at national level. Since its creation, so $4 billion of funds have allowed more than $20 billion of investment to the private sector supported in 47 countries. This has also favored the introduction of new financial resources for development in the eligible countries, also helping to reduce in the domains of that the private sector has chosen to invest in. So I'd like to support this partnership with LEADER for having responded to us and to come up with a very strong and ambitious reconstitution of the IDA Bank 21, and that the resources are also meet the aspirations, the collective African aspiration. And in addition to the contributions of our partners, we cannot underestimate the transformative power of technology and cooperation and regional cooperation. So when towards the realization of this SDGs for our economies, allow me also to underline the importance of accepting the IDA 21 with as a task that we take with determination, conscious of the importance, responsibility that we have in common. So we need to come to also support this resolution as we look forward to a better future for Africa, because it is only when we have access to this that we can also achieve the Africa that we all dream about collectively. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to underline the situation that island states such as Comoros are facing. So we would also have to have a plan that also takes into the effects of change, like tsunamis, cyclones, and also floods. The situation is very alarming. So this needs particular attention from our partners, our development partners like IDA. So as such, my country is advocating that IDA should come to look at the specific problems that island states that face as vulnerable states. They are very fragile, and also they are also touched in the environmental sector. They face a lot of food insecurity. They also have external shocks of all natures, and also this means that are dealing with very specific objectives that would help us adapt to climate change. And as such, I would like, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude my proposal by a African proverb when we say that we do not handle things singularly. So if we come together to face these obstacles, I would wish us all success in our work, and I thank you all.
Merci beaucoup. If I please may invite the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo. Your Excellency, if you could use the podium. Your Excellency, if you could use this podium. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Kenya, William Ruto, Your Excellency Mohamed Ghazouani, Chair of the African Union and President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, the President of the World Bank, Mr. J. Banga, ladies and gentlemen, I thank the dynamic President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency William Ruto, for the invitation to speak at the summit of the International Development Association, IDA, and for the hospitality of the Kenyan government. This gathering serves as a platform for collaboration and a catalyst for transformative change. As we convene here, we're tasked with a great responsibility to articulate the case for an ambitious and robust 21st replenishment of the IDA, one that will pave the way for sustainable development and prosperity, not only for the African continent, but also for all nations in need. The challenges we face in the 21st century are immense and multifaceted. From the continuing effects of poverty and inequality to the urgent threats posed by climate change and pandemics, our world is in need of bold and innovative solutions. Yet amidst these challenges lies an opportunity to redefine our approach to development, to reimagine our priorities, and to forge a path towards a more equitable and sustainable future. The IDA, with its long-standing commitment to poverty eradication and inclusive growth, stands as a testament to the power of international cooperation. Over the years, it has played a pivotal role in lifting millions out of poverty, expanding access to education and healthcare, and building resilient communities. However, as we look ahead, we must acknowledge that our work is very far from finished. Millions still live in poverty. Millions still lack access to basic services. And millions suffer from the effects of environmental degradation and climate change. Excellencies, all of us are aware, for example, of the enormous infrastructure challenge confronting Africa. The African Development Bank, AFDB, estimates Africa's infrastructure needs at between 130 to 170 billion United States dollars annually, with a financing gap of between 68 billion and 180 billion dollars annually. The infrastructure gap has a negative impact on our competitiveness. It constrains our development, stifles business growth, trade, investment, and service delivery, as well as the overall progress towards inclusive and sustainable development. Mobilizing finance and investment remains central to Africa's development needs and attaining the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Our biggest challenge is not a scarcity of financing, but overcoming a global economic system that has not allocated sufficient long-term resources to support Africa's economic transformation. That is why boosting the resources of the IDA, whose ability to generate concessional financing represents an effective way to respond to the obstacles that African countries encounter in the present global system, is so critical for the prospects of Africa's development. With the burgeoning population, our challenges hinge on our ability to provide reliable electricity, affordable